Hello everyone, welcome to my channel Nikitinaknits. My name is Evgeniya, and in this video I want to speak about something that caught my eye in April, specifically new knitting patterns that were just recently released in April. I would knit every single pattern myself. Usually I don't pick up a lot of patterns because I simply can't love all of them that are releasing every single month, but some of them are really getting into my heart and I want to speak about them here. So every single month actually I'm releasing this type of videos, so if you would like to see similar videos every single month, don't forget to subscribe. And as usually I do discuss the recommended yarn by the designer and my personal opinion on that, would I go with this or maybe would I substitute it, and I briefly comment on the construction and my overall thoughts. So by the end of the video you hopefully have more information to succeed in the project if you do choose to knit these type of patterns. So grab your knitting, grab your favorite drink. Today I'm having some mint tea, and let's discuss some of the gorgeous knitting patterns that were released in April and that got my attention. The first pattern I want to speak about is Vilma Cardigan by Gregoria Fibers. Gregoria Fibers released Vilma top, I guess last year or a few years ago, that was quite popular, and I really love this pattern as well. And I thought maybe I need it one day, but I just didn't see myself wearing a top of that type of format. And when they released the cardigan, I was so happy. This is extremely beautiful, very gentle, very feminine, very functional during spring and summer because we do have air going through our body and we can't really get too hot in it. Very beautiful detailing, like in the bottom of the cardigan we don't have ribbing, but we have some beautiful lace motif going on that allows the fabric to be very straight and it doesn't stitch in the fabric like most of the ribbings would do. But here at the collar we do have a twisted or half twisted rib, which is quite functional and prevents from stretching over time. Here in the button band we have a very thin double knit button band that also adds some sturdiness and very beautiful finish, and the whole cardigan gives me the mixed feeling between the modern style and the vintage style because it is slightly oversized but not too much. You do have room for movement and breathability, but it's not so tight like those vintage cardigans from the past. The cardigan also feels quite relaxed because of a slightly dropped shoulder. It's not a completely dropped shoulder, but it's not something that goes right on top of the seam of your shoulder. It's something in the middle. And while we do have details in this cardigan, we still can wear it with anything. I think it's beautiful with jeans, with skirts, with maybe shorts in the summer. If it's getting cool in the evening or early morning, you could just grab the cardigan and put it on. It is knitted on 4mm needles with a 19 stitch gauge per 10 centimeters, and the recommended yarn is light DK weight plus the lace yarn. In this case is PC Garden Semia Pura held together with Knitting for Olive Silk mohair. I guess you could go of course with any type of mohair. It's important to just choose the main thread. I would be careful with picking a true heavy DK weight with mohair because that would be too thick. Semia Pura is more close to the sport weight or a really light DK rather than a true heavy or middle DK weight. Semia Pura is an incredible yarn. I've heard so many wonderful reviews about it. I've seen made objects in real life. It is quite plush, soft, affordable, reliable, reputable. Like we have already so many projects knitted with this yarn, and they do have series that are undyed and dyed, and I would like of course to try undyed version to see how is the true fabric, how's the true feeling. So of course I would go with the recommended yarn, and the construction is knitted top down, quite famous construction that a lot of us already probably tried. You start at the back panel, you form the back panel first, then left panel going down to the underarms, right panel the same to the underarms, and then you connect both panels together, knitting down to your desired length. I would still do it cropped, a bit cropped, just like the designer recommended. And after that you pick up stitches and the sleeve, you do the sleeve cap shaping with the short rows and finishing the sleeves in the round. Probably also clean and reliable pattern writing because this is quite a big designer and there are many beautiful reviews. The next one is probably my favorite from the entire month. It is Phoenix Sweater from Moreca Knit. So gorgeous. Look at this beautiful banana shaped sleeves, very beautifully shaped v-neck with this interesting increases. As usually, wonderful proper shaping from Moreca Knit. You will have a lot of short rows. You will have very thoughtful design that fits you so well, and when you invest your time, effort and money into the project, you will probably really enjoy the finished object. That's my prediction. First of all, this is the first time that I see this type of silhouette. Maybe it is quite popular somewhere on fashion shows or it is quite trendy, but I don't really follow trends and I don't monitor a lot of releases from designers, from fashion designers. So I'm not sure. In knitting community, I've seen this the first time, and that is so beautiful, so relaxed. And I would just need two versions, honestly. One is with more, you could say, fancy yarn to just go out or treat it like a special project. And a second sample I would just need for my home because it does make me feel relaxed. It has so much room. These banana shaped sleeves are very relaxed, and I just want to relax on my couch, have my tea, and have some beautiful knitting time or reading my book. At the same time, it is so feminine and beautiful that you would look just gorgeous going out on a date or for a walk or even for a special occasion, depending on the yarn that you choose and how much you will enjoy the finished object. The sweater features quite a generous amount of positive ease, 25 centimeters, and I do think it's quite important to pick the correct yarn because the sleeves are, as I already said, this banana shaped sleeves, and when we pick too drapey yarn or a lot of plant content in the yarn, I guess these sleeves are not going to show up correctly, and if the project is too heavy, it is not going to show that beautiful shape that was initially designed. So the yarn choice has to be quite lightweight with quite even beautiful stitch definition. The gauge should not be off. I think we should be on point with this project with this gauge, and the yarn has to be a little bit sticky. It doesn't have to be so smooth or worsted spun. I think the carded wool is the best for this type of projects where you have a lot of hairs poking through the fabric, and eventually with wash and with wear the fabric is becoming a bit more connected, if you understand what I mean. We're usually looking for these qualities when we're knitting color work, but for this design specifically, I think the yarn also has to be soft because it's going to be next to your skin, and it has to be delicate, beautiful yarn. So we're knitting on 4mm needles with 21 stitch per 10 centimeters, and one of the recommended yarn is Lamana Como held together with Lamana Premia. I do have this yarn sample in my stash, and I'm in love with Lamana Premium Mohair. I think it's the softest, one of the softest mohairs that I've ever felt. Is beautiful, and the colors are beautiful. There are not so many colors in the collection, but they're all beautiful, and I'm sure most of you will find some colors. And overall, I do like Lamana yarns. They're featuring super light qualities. So it is carded wool, as I mentioned. It is super light. You get a lot of meterage per weight, and I do think that this yarn fits this project just perfectly. So I would go with this option for sure. The construction is knitted top down seamlessly. You also start with the back, doing a lot of shaping, a lot of shoulder rows as usually from Moreca knit. Then you're knitting the right panel over the increases for the v-neck, left panel connecting here, knitting the front panel down to the underarms, connecting with the back panel, and knitting the whole piece in the round to desired length. In the bottom, both in the body and in the sleeves, we have a sewn Italian bind off. That's what I could see from Ravelry. But I don't know if it's just that or there is some more finishing to that. Maybe some sort of cord, but it doesn't look like an I-cord. Anyways, there's no ribbing and it looks beautiful the way it's finished. I think I would go with this type of bind off. After that, you pick up stitches for the sleeves. You need the short row shaping, very nice shaping in this design. Just beautiful, beautiful slope, like it was just fabricated, like it was created in the factory, I swear, so beautiful. And then you're knitting the sleeves in the round to your desired length with this beautiful shaping of the sleeves. The next design is polo, which is not so often in my designs because I'm not such a fan of polo designs overall, but this one specifically really caught my attention. I like that it doesn't feature a lot of positive ease, only 2 centimeters of positive ease. I like the format of it because it's something in between casual look and a bit more elegant, something in the middle, depending on the color, the yarn choice again, and how you're gonna style it could look completely different. The collar is a proper size. It is not so tight, not too open, because this detail does grab your attention at first, immediately, and depending on how beautifully it is shaped, how well it is designed, most of the polos I just don't choose, but this one is really beautiful. I also like that the button band is kind of separate from the polo itself. That creates a beautiful and relaxed fit. In this specific design, I don't see any pulling of the button band. We have a double knit button band here with buttons, and overall, as I already said, it looks very beautifully curated and nicely shaped. The only thing that I'm not sure of and I don't really like in this design is this stitched in ribbing. So it creates this sporty fit with with this little bunching and the bottom belly area. I don't really enjoy that in any designs, not only in this one. So I would replace this normal hem with a split hem, just like I did in this sweater. And if you want to know the details about this project, I mentioned it all in the podcast number 2 as a finished work, one of my first podcasts actually overall. And I really enjoy the split hem in this sweater, and I would do the same in this polo. I think it would look beautiful. The whole project is knitted on 3mm needles with 24 stitches per 10 centimeters, and the yarn recommended is 100% cashmere. In the list we can see all sorts of cashmeres that exist in the market with this chain construction. I think PetiteKnit knitted hers in sadness garden cashmere. I tried this cashmere and I'm not such a big fan of that. I spoke about this reasoning in one of my videos, new yarns from 2025 that were released in 2025. Take a look at that video. I will be putting the link in the description box if you want to see the comparison and my reasoning behind that. So if I were to knit this project, I would use either Cardiff Cashmere Classic or Pasquale Cashmere 628. They're my two favorite cashmeres on the market. They're slightly different, they have different properties, but I do recommend trying both if you haven't tried yet any. And if you decide to go with Pasquale Cashmere, you do have 10% discount if you shop it through my link. Anything that you want to buy from Pasquale yarns, you can use my link and you will get 10% discount applied automatically. And if it doesn't apply automatically, you can insert the code that is going to be also listed in the description box below. So cashmere is of course amazing and I do enjoy it. I'm a big fan, but I would need this polo also in a less expensive and more wearable, more durable yarn that I'm not going to be afraid to wear, because this sweater, for example, I'm only wearing for special occasions. I don't wear it on everyday basis. And I was thinking, what would I use if I were to go with the different yarn? And what came to my mind is a new yarn actually that was released recently in 2026. It is Lune Merino from Rauma Garn. Rauma Garn is a Norwegian company that usually releases a bit rustic wools. Usually they work with Norwegian wool, but this time they released something quite soft, quite plush, and that actually mimics cashmere quite well. And that features the same meterage, and it also released in 25-gram balls with 120 meters per 25 grams. And the finished fabric, I swear, looks so much like cashmere. And people who already knit with this shared their feelings. They say that it's very, very soft. Of course, not as soft as cashmere because this is merino wool. But I'm really interested to try, and that is a way more lower cost for the project and way more wearable project. And regarding the construction, it is seamless construction, top down, very readable, very nice from PetiteKnit as usual. You start without the collar, you start just the back panel, increasing for the shoulder slope, just like this one actually. And then you do the right panel with the increases for the neck, left panel also increasing for the neck, and then you connect everything in the round together with the sleeves, and you do work in the round with the raglan increases. So it's a combination of two constructions. You don't have to knit sleeves separately. After that, you're splitting for sleeves, knitting the body down to your desired length and with your desired finishing and ribbing, and then you continue knitting the sleeves in the round and knitting the collar. You pick up stitches and you shape the collar. I guess the double knit button band is knitted together with the main fabric as well. And with the double knit button band, I would do some short rows, probably every fifth row, German short rows or Japanese style short rows to prevent from pulling. I don't see any pulling in the pictures of PetiteKnit sample, but just in case, I always do short rows on double knit every fifth or seventh row, because the double knit fabric is more tight and more short than the stockinette fabrics, and that makes sense. And that is it. I'm just looking forward to the time when I'm going to be able to cast on this project. The next pattern I actually saw today just accidentally, and it drives me crazy how beautiful, how feminine, how lightweight, how breezy. It is so beautiful, and I'm literally melting when I'm looking at it, and I want to wear it during the summer and end of the spring. It is Camille Shell Blouse by Knitting House, a designer that I've never knitted before from, and I don't really know people either online or in my knitting circle who have knitted from this designer, but I would try for sure because this design just takes my heart. It is so beautiful. This very gentle lazy tail that reminds me of leaves or trees is combining with stockinette panels and doesn't really overload your mind with a lot of different lace, right? It is so minimalistic and versatile. And also in the edging of the whole blouse, you have some sort of finishing. I don't really know what it is, either a crochet finishing or you do it with needles. There's overall not so much explanation on how it's knitted. It doesn't even say if it's top down or bottom up. It is bottom up because there's a picture where you see decreases rather than increases for the armholes. This is how I understood that is actually bottom up. Would be actually nice to have a description of the pattern. And one more thing that I would pay attention in this design is the depth of the back shaping. So it is quite deep in the back. I'm not sure if the front and back panels are identical. It doesn't really matter if they are, but I do see that it's quite deep at the back. And when it's so deep at the back and in the front, the shoulders may fall off. Because I do have this experience from store-bought items. So what I would do is I would either knit one cord or just buy a cord and attach between two shoulders at the back that would hold the shape. I would probably knit it because that would look way more beautiful. The body and the sleeves feature some positive ease, but not too much. You do feel air going through your body. You're not probably going to sweat in it. And the underarms are not exactly into your armpits, which is really nice as well. The whole blouse is quite see-through, so it is important to think if you're going to wear a top or anything underneath. I think it could be beautiful with anything tank top, top, or even the bra if you're fine with that. And I would probably need this blouse in a white or cream color to show off the beautiful lace motif even better. The way we need it is bottom up, either in the round or flat, I don't really know. And then you reach in the underarms, you're decreasing for the underarms, you're shaping the armhole, which is really nicely shaped. Then you're doing the finishing to the top, knitting also the back panel with the shaping, connecting two panels here in the shoulders, and then you probably cast on stitches for the sleeves. Maybe shape the sleeve cap, maybe don't, I have no idea. Or maybe you even do them bottom up and seam them up into the garment. I have no idea because there's also no finished objects on Ravelry. But I really like the design and I do want to give it a try. I actually forgot to mention the gauge and the yarn. The gauge is 21 stitches per 10 centimeters. I don't know if it's in lace pattern or just stockinette, it's not mentioned. And then you hold two strands of silk mohair together, any of your favorite mohair, held together over standard meters, 200 to 115 meters per 25 grams, and we're knitting this on 3.75 millimeter needles. The next one is Aris Blouse by Caidree, a very beautiful feminine lightweight breezy cardigan with short sleeves, or with the long sleeves if you wish. You can make a few versions. And the first thing that really caught my attention is so many beautiful button bands and quite thin double knit button band around the whole cardigan. We do have quite a lot of raglan cardigans in the market, and here what matters is detailing, right? And the whole detailing of the garments makes me feel of a vintage style, but mixed really well with a modern style nowadays. And just like I usually prefer, not so much of a positive ease, but still some air going through our bodies. I think it could be worn also open and closed beautifully. And as I already said, long or short sleeves would look just gorgeous. We could experiment with colors of the buttons. I don't know, maybe the buttons could be bright or way more darker than the actual garment. In this case, it's also a very beautiful contrast with the mustard color and the cream buttons. It looks absolutely beautiful. We're knitting this on 4.5 millimeter needles with a DK weight yarn, but it is two lace strands actually held together, which is Cardiff Prime. And Cardiff Prime is a very, very thin thread. One thread is like 300 meters per 25 grams. It is a silk thread wrapped with cashmere fluff, and it is a gorgeous yarn. I have it in my stash. I have a swatch with this, and I'm actually knitting a project with this right now as a second strand, and it is a beautiful, beautiful yarn. So I would go with this yarn for sure. And also I think this cardigan is suitable for cereal alpaca bases and mohair, but maybe two strands of traditional mohair would be way too thick for this project. You would have to knit way more tight to achieve 21 stitch gauge per 10 centimeters, but still doable. I'm actually knitting a cardigan right now with two strands of Pasquale Manada. Pasquale Manada is so amazing. I think this could be knitted with Pasquale Manada with only one strand. And that mix is a beautiful mix of yak, wool, mohair, and silk. But it is extremely soft. It is way softer than most mohairs on the market. It is a dream. So that could be worked actually with one strand. Remember, you have a 10% discount if you want to buy it. And also, I think this cardigan could look very beautiful with cereal alpaca. So if you want to know more bases with cereal alpaca, you can watch my mohair substitutes videos. I have 2 videos on my channel. Links are also going to be down below. And there you can find quite a few beautiful options that could fit this project. Cereal alpaca, brushed merino wool, different types of fluffy bases that are not mohair. So check that video out if you're interested. Regarding the construction, it is a top-down seamless raglan, very simple as usually by Caidree, very doable, probably also for beginners if you're really well paying attention and you have patience for the double knit button band. I don't know if the double knit button band is knitted together with the fabric or separate, probably separate as usually. When you finish the whole cardigan, you then cast on stitches at the bottom and you go all the way around knitting the bottom band. It is a lot of work, but it is completely worth it. It looks absolutely beautiful. And of course, you're doing these gorgeous buttons. I think buttons should be quite special and quite interesting for this project. Maybe this rounded pearl style buttons would look nice. So beautiful, and I hope I can knit it one day. The next one looks quite simple, but it's actually not that simple. This is BLUZA Sweatshirt by Joanna Wiernicka. It is quite a new designer to me. I have not knitted anything from her, but I really love the detailing and the effort that she's putting in her designs. So this sweatshirt or saddle shoulder sweater is not so simple. The first thing that grabbed my attention is of course the bands around the neckline, the sleeves and the bottom. I think it's double knit bands, but I don't really know for sure because I guess it's not mentioned in Ravelry, but it does add the look of the very thick seam, and it actually does prevent from stretching over time. So if you're going to knit it in the wool that you're ready to wear every single day, maybe around your house or maybe even work in the garden, and you do care about the durability and the shaping of the whole garment, these type of bands are actually very, very useful. They do prevent from stretching, and then you can even insert very easily a thick elastic inside and hold the shape even better through years. But of course, depending on the yarn we're choosing, we can wear this garment in different occasions. So first of all is the shape. The shape of the whole sweatshirt is quite boxy with great amount of positive ease recommended. Designer says that of course you can pick any sort of ease that you want, but from the samples I do like the look of a more oversized sweater in this specific shaping and construction. So I would experiment with the neckline. The neckline that is designed here is folded over neck, just like I'm wearing, but I would choose the tall mock neck if I can tolerate the yarn that I'm choosing, right? Because I'm really sensitive. So that would create even warmer garments. And in my specific taste, it would look even better. But of course, it will depend on your preferences. If you do like a true look of a sweatshirt, this is the neck to go with, the folded over neck. So the second detail that really grabbed my attention is already small little details that I can see in the construction. This is the saddle shoulder construction where we have 2 beautiful saddles. And then from those saddles, we do need the front panel, the back panel, and then the sleeves separately. So this is not a regular usual saddle shoulder. This is really, really carefully shaped. There are many different saddle shoulders in the market, and very rarely I can be completely satisfied with how it's shaped, because this construction is not so easy either to design or to knit. And very often, I'm honest, I'm not really happy with how it's made, and I'm usually skipping saddle shoulders for my choices because I just don't like either too much fabric accumulates here because there was not enough shoulder slope, or there's no depth for the neck at the back, or any other details. I don't want to go too much into detail, but this is really, really well shaped, and I'm so grateful for that because it's quite hard to find, even though we have so many different designs on the market. The second detail that is really well made is the sleeve. It is a very gradual transition between the shoulder and the sleeves without any bunching of the fabric, without any twisting or any sort of issues. It is very well shaped sleeve that is also not an often case. And the third detail that I'm so grateful for is the bust, optional bust darts shaping, the horizontal ones. You either knit them back and forth here in the center completely, or you do one back and forth row and then you skip 1 or 2 rows, then another back and forth row, and then you skip. You keep knitting in the round. There's different ways to make them. I don't know exactly how these are made, but having bust darts in the sweatshirt that is oversized is very rare because usually designers don't put that effort because it's already oversized. It's not going to be so visible if the front is literally jumping, right? But as I usually say in my each video, bust darts are so important, and I'm so grateful when they're there because I don't have a big breast, and I usually notice the pulling of the fabric. I imagine if I would have a big breast, I would be even more, frustrated that I have to every time modify the pattern that I already paid for and add my own bust darts. So more and more designers slowly adding bust darts to their patterns, and I'm so, so grateful for that. We're knitting this on 4mm needles with the Aran weight yarn, and we need to achieve 18 stitches per 10 centimeters. The recommended yarn is actually 3 strands held together throughout. 2 strands of Sunday by Sadness garn, which is 100% merino, and 1 strand of mohair. I personally wouldn't go with this recommendation because I don't really see the sense of holding 3 strands together, where we have to knit the double knitting bands, where we have to knit the folded over collar, shaping, short rows. There's simply no need for me personally to hold 3 strands together because I prefer either 1 or 2 strands max. I only go for more strands if there is a big necessity for that. So because of that, there's so many different options that we can go for. The first option is actually Gilead by Durham Nature. I think it is either worsted or Aran weight or heavy DK weight yarn, but this yarn blooms with blocking and fills up the gaps between the stitches quite well after the block, and that could be very suitable for this project. Gilead is a woolen spun yarn. It doesn't give you very smooth definition like, I don't know, Double Sunday would do from Sadness Garden, or any worsted spun yarn, but it does look beautiful and lofty, lightweight, and not too soft and not too scratchy. So it's a great middle point between something that is going to work, but probably is not going to scratch you too much. But if you're oversensitive to wool, that is going to be quite scratchy anyways. So you already test and decide for yourself. I have this yarn in my stash for testing. I have 1 ball to experiment with, and I'm so excited to actually swatch and see if I can hit the gauge. But that is a beautiful option. And the second option I would go for is something interesting, either tweed or variegated mohair that could be added to the main strand to make it more interesting and more detailed, you could say. There are many different variegated mohairs on the market. There you have to choose yourself if you want to go for that. But if I were to go for tweed option, I would hold 2 strands of Lamana Como tweed together. This is a beautiful tweed where the speckles are not really falling off the thread or poking off. I don't really like that effect, and that would look really gorgeous. Another tweedy yarn, it's not really tweed, it is very interesting, a little bit speckled, a little bit tweedy, very beautiful yarn. You can also see it in my new yarns from 2025's video. It is a woolen spun Donegal from Lang, and I guess you can also hit the gauge with this yarn. It is very interesting yarn, a bit dry but not too dry, soft but not too soft. It's really hard to explain. It is rustic, it is woolly, but it's not scratchy or pokey to the skin, and I guess it could be extremely durable, so maybe I would experiment with that yarn as well. And I have so many other options in mind. I think that's enough for now. So that was the design from this gorgeous designer. I'm so excited to see what she can create next because I think she's quite talented, and I like this approach of people when they really take their time, they really take their effort to create something amazing without rushing and without oversimplifying stuff. If you want to see what I'm knitting on right now, what I'm excited to knit in the future, I'm actually hoping to release a knitting podcast quite soon. I just need to finish something that is so painful to knit and takes so much time, and I'm having complications for this. I'm going to share it all in my future knitting podcast. If you want to see that podcast, you can subscribe to my channel and wait for that video. You can press also notification bell button if you want to be notified about my new videos. Please share with me what you're knitting on right now, because every time I'm looking through the comments, I'm getting more favorites into my queue, which is a good thing and a bad thing at the same time, but I really enjoy that. And again, thank you very much for watching, and I'm hoping to see you soon in my next video.